My name is Cho Park, and I'm a student in the College of Nursing in Inje University, Korea. I'm here to present on the factor affecting the suicidal ideation of elderly in a single-person household in South Korea. The order of my presentation is the background, purpose, method, result, and the conclusion. In Korea, the number of suicides by age group in 2019 was the highest, with 2,837 people in their 50s. And the suicide rate was the highest in the order of 18 years or older, 67.4 people, 70s, 46.2 people, and 60, 33.7 people. The suicide rate also shows a tendency to increase with age. In Korea, the suicide rate in 2019 was 26.9 per 100,000 people, and among the 13,799 suicide deaths, the elderly aged 65 and over accounted for 3,600, an increase of 7% from the previous year, and the suicide rate was 40.6%, which was 2.0% decreases. However, the elderly have the highest suicide rate among the total population. The suicide rate among those aged 65 and over in Korea is the highest among OECD member countries and 2.1 times higher than the OECD average. In particular, among the elderly population, the suicide rate of the elderly in single-person household was higher, and the number of single-person households isolated from formal and informal support system was about 3 times higher than that of multi-person household. This study aimed to identify the factor affecting the suicidal ideation of elderly in single-person household aged 65 years or older in Korea, and to provide data of development of the policies and programs to prevent suicidal ideation. This study utilized a raw data from the 18th South Korean National Health and Nutrition Examination Survey 2019 were used to measure the factor affecting suicidal ideation among the elderly in single-person household in Korea. The data of 363 single-person household respondents, 24.8% male, 75.2% female, between the age of 65 and 80 were included. And as variable related to suicidal ideation, variable of depression for more than 2 weeks, subjective health perception, and suicide plan within the previous year found through previous study were selected. Using the IBM SPSS statistic 26.0 program, multiple regression analyses were conducted. The results show that depression for more than 2 weeks, beta value 0.114, p-value 0.001, subjective health perception, beta value minus 0.039, p-value 0.002, and suicidal plan within the previous year, beta value 0.752, p-value less than 0.001, was found to be a significant variable to explain the suicidal ideation of the elderly in single-person household. The statistically significant regression model explained about 73% of the variance in suicidal ideation. These are the conclusions of the research. Firstly, there need to be designated as well mental health risk group that require social management. Second, there need to be promote physical, mental, and social health. Lastly, they'll need to develop a program to prevent suicidal ideation tailored to each individual. Thank you for your attention. Thank all of you for listening and allowing me to present today.
I'm Rong Tian-an from Chongbuk National University in Korea. It's my honor to attend the conference again. The topic of my research is a study on the state of disaster management resources in Korean local governments. It consists of 4 parts. Nowadays, our society is exposed to a variety of natural and social disasters. As disasters become larger and more frequent when they occur, economic losses and human casualties are increasing. In order to respond to this disaster quickly, investment of disaster management resource is necessary. In addition, it is necessary to systematically manage the resources. However, there are problems with the states of resource management in disaster management agencies. Problems such as moist, insufficient ventilation, expiration of usage period, and lack of person in charge have affected the utilization of resources in case of disaster. In order to make better use of disaster management resources, we try to put forward solutions to the problems. There are some laws and regulations related to disaster management resources in Korea, like Framework Act on the Management of Disaster and Safety, Countermeasures Against Natural Disaster Act, Emergency Resources Management Act, and Framework Act on Civil Defenses. According to the Article 34 of the Framework Act on the Management of Disaster and Safety, disaster management resources are the equipments, commodities, materials, and facilities that necessary for disaster recovery activities, which the head of the disaster management agency stipulates. According to Article 43 of the Enforcement Decree of the Framework Act on the Management of Disaster and Safety, resources mean the following like flood control materials, construction materials, and so on. And also there are two management systems of disaster management resources. First is NDMS, Natural Disaster Management System, and DRSS, Disaster Resource Sharing System. First, National Disaster Management System is a nationwide information system that supports 4 states of disaster management. And the disaster management agencies use this system to perform all disaster management tasks, including disaster damage management and recovery support. The related agencies with own systems can use this system to connection with each other. Next is DRSS, Disaster Resource Sharing System. There are 3 main functions of this system. First is resource management. 455 institutions are linked with the system. It included 14 central ministries, 17 provinces, 228 counties, 177 related organizations, and 19 civil societies. They link and share resources, information with disaster management personnel. Next is support for disaster management resources. Through this system, resources from all disaster management agencies and civil society can be searched and requested for support through the system. Third function is update management of disaster management resources. The system matches the information on actual resources like type, quantity, storage place, department, person in charge, contact information, and so on, with the information in the DRSS system. Next is the states of disaster management resources in local governments. In June 2021, our team conducted field survey on the disaster management resource warehouses in local governments. We collected information from 37 warehouses in 12 cities and provinces. Next are the problems and difficulties of the warehouses. First, the warehouses are not a special space for the disaster management resources, but general comprehensive warehouses for storing various resources like wood, paint, and so on. Second problem is about equipment location map and item label. Equipment position map are not resolved or inconsistent. In this case, it's usually different for daily management, and in the event of a disaster, it's also difficult for staff to take out the resource quickly. Third problem is about equipment position. There are disorderly arrangement of equipment in disaster warehouse. In particular, there are situations that equipment is stored with dangerous mechanicals. Final problem is about warehouse environment. Closed, humid, and unventilated environment will reduce the performance of some equipment or make it unusable. In this table, you can see the most frequent problem is the comprehensive warehouse, and other problems are location map and item label, separated management of disaster goods, warehouse environment. Finally, we put forward some improvement and suggestions. Separate management of disaster chemicals, environment location map, item label, Additional temporary step in case of disaster reduce the frequency of personnel transfer. Consider the local weather and issues such as moisture and ventilation. This is all of my presentation. Thank you for listening.
Hello everyone, my presentation name is National Crisis Management: The Impact of Control on Crisis Management. And since 2019, COVID-19 has swept the world. In the past 2 years, we have seen governments around the world take various measures to prevent the spread of the virus. Close schools, public institutions, and private institutions maintain social distancing, wear masks, and quarantine to ensure people's lives and healthy. We can find that quarantine and wearing masks have been generally adopted in Asia, and the people have cooperated with the government to slow infectious disease. But so far, Western countries are still arguing about compulsory wearing of masks and isolation because of freedom and human rights issues. In order to block the epidemic, China has to lose 3 or 4 years of economic income to protect the lives and health of the people. But the United States ignored the lives and health of the people at the bottom for the sake of the economy. Chinese companies transformed their factories to make masks in order to resist the epidemic. Companies that are about to go broken donate all their money. But the President of the United States is earning profits from the epidemic. Let us have a reflect on what is influencing many countries to make such decisions. From a control perspective, I use psychological research to study the policies and the public behavior of various countries. What impact does control have on crisis management? This article is based on the social subconsciousness and control viewpoints mentioned in the book Escape from Freedom by psychoanalyst Eric Fromm. His content is the social subconsciousness is the collective repressed disaster of human beings, and the culture is the filter suppresses the latent disaster desires of human beings are at the same time provides creativity so that people are gradually personalized and complete. And at the same time, they cast the separation of individuals and society increase loneliness and increase the change of mental illness. So we can see the four major structures for human society are politics, economy, culture, and society. But culture exists as the underlying logic of the other three. So the words political country, economic country, and society country were born, rather than saying that those four are equal. So we can see the picture of the mind map. The social subconscious is under the control, and the control the thought, plan, and the behavior. This is the man, Eric Fromm. Culture is the guilt and norm of the other three. So what influence does country have on crisis management? Crisis management is a human-oriented discipline that focuses on human dignity and power. It will inevitably not escape the influence of control. In same control systems, people think that person freedom and power are the most important. So in the critical moment, life will become cheap. In other part of the culture, people believe that life and health are the most important. So power and freedom will become cheap in time of crisis. Therefore, when an emergency mechanism is born, there will be division in the plans of the both parts. The same control collectively groups of the people with different behaviors but similar common values. And different value became different values away cause conflicts. Such conflicts will more or less affect the relationship between race and race, nation and nation, country and country.
Hello everyone, I'm Lin Dong from the Department of Quasi-Sonomy, Chungbuk National University. Today, I want to speak the theme is how to use PDCA and FHP methods to improve the reserve capacity of material resources in disaster management resources. In fact, what I am talking about this time is a further improvement based on my previous research. First of all, let me briefly introduce the background of this theme selection. By searching various information, we can find that disaster management resources are a very broad concept. This research mainly analyzed material resources From the end of 2019 to now, COVID-19 continued to endanger human health and property. However, combined with the long-term existence of the virus, what makes me more scared is that in the early days of COVID-19, many countries fell into a shortage of anti-epidemic materials. When we face a sudden disaster, our existing reserves of material resources are not enough to meet the needs of the moment. Therefore, we need to rethink the existing way of material resources reserve, whether it can meet the needs of a frequent disaster in the future. Next, this research examines the existing methods of disaster management resource reserve. Although scholars at home and abroad have formed many mature theories and methods for ordinary material reserve management, such as activity-based classification, window-managed inventory, and so on. However, the research on reserve management of disaster management resources is still in its infancy because of the uncertainty and complexity of disasters. The demand for disaster management resources by different entities is also uncertain. Having said all above, the reserve method of ordinary materials is not entirely suitable for disaster management resources. Therefore, this research takes into account the characteristics of material resources and the difficulty of storage, and believes that it is necessary to introduce a new storage method to dynamically adjust the disaster management resources. In the previous video, I mentioned that the PDC cycle is very suitable for application in the field of managing disaster management resources, because when a disaster occurs, we have a great demand for disaster management resources. So in order to establish an appropriate amount of material resources reserve, it usually takes a long time to operate, and there will be many uncertain factors in the material resources reserve process. The PDC cycle can go through the four steps of plan, do, check, and action to achieve the purpose of refining the material resources reserve process. If the material resources are stored in accordance with the PDC cycle, the entire work process will run comfortably and readily, and ultimately promote the orderly progress of the reserve work. However, the occurrence of disaster is accidental, and we can predict the time, location, and scale of its occurrence. If the material resources reserves are too much or too little, it will increase to cost of the reserves. Although the PDC cycle is a dynamic method for managing disaster management resources, in the actual material resource management and reserve process, there is a lack of quantitative analysis of the degree of material resource demand. Because there are many types of material resources, the scarcity, importance, and the timelines of material resources should be evaluated based on the experience of experts and field staff. In order to analyze the above three indicators, this research introduces the fuzzy analytic hierarchy process. FAHP relies on AHP layered thinking based on the subject judgment of experts, and uses fuzzy mathematical principle to evaluate each index. Its advantage is that it can comprehensively consider multiple indicators and exclude the differences in individual individuals. Okay, the above is all I want to say. Due to personal time, this research is still ongoing. Thank you everyone for watching.
Hi, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Ke Zhang. Now I'm a PhD course student at Chungbu National University. Today I'm going to talk to you about my research about disaster vulnerability and resilience of foreigners in South Korea. I will start with the research background. Recently, global climate change, industrialization, and urbanization have caused, and disasters are increasing the damage caused by large crowds and complexity. Groups that have difficulty responding to or overcoming disasters on their own, and who can only protect their lives, bodies, and property with the help of others. These groups are often called disaster vulnerable groups. The total number of foreign residents in South Korea has reached over 2 million in 2019. However, due to the language barrier, these foreigners are also regarded as a disaster vulnerable group. Disaster probability is high of foreigners with a high level of vulnerability and a low level of resilience. The purpose of this study is assess the level of disaster vulnerability of foreigners in South Korea, and identify the relationship between education support, financial support, information support, and psychological support and resilience of foreigners, and suggest a strategy to improve resiliency. This is the current situation of foreigners in Korea. According to statistics in November 2020, the total numbers of foreigners living in Korea is 2 million, and foreigners account for 4% of the total population. Compared with 2018, this is an increase of 80%. International students increased the most. As for the status of foreigners in Korea by nationality, Chinese are the most, accounting for 54%, followed by Vietnam with 12%. It was followed by United States and Japan. As for the status of foreigners in Korea by age, those in their 30s account for the most, and 27%, followed by in their 30s with 38%. As for the status of foreigner in Korea by period of residence, those from 1 to less than 2 years account for 20%, followed by 5 to less than 10 years with 19%. There were many less than 1 years, accounting for 18%. This study used in-depth interview on the disaster experience and improve resilience. The foreigners who from various countries such as China, Mongolia, Vietnam, India. The interview took about 10 minutes per person. The results of the interview showed that they are experiencing the source of COVID. 11 of them believe that the epidemic will continue for a long time, and they are very afraid of being infected. In terms of responding capabilities, 2 of them can't understand the messages sent by the government. 3 people said they don't know the phone number to call in an emergency. Among the adjustments to improve resilience through education support, most people hope to conduct on-site training. At the same time, many people expressed their hope that they could be provided in the form of easy-to-understand contents, like pictures and cartoons. In their adjustment to improve resilience through financial support, all of them said that they didn't receive the same disaster support money as Korea. In the adjustment to improve resilience through information support, everyone said that they can receive emergency messages sent by the government every day. Most people said that after a disaster, telling the location of the shelter is most helpful. In the survey of improving resilience through psychological support, women need psychological support more than men. Most women think that there was a problem, and even one of them went to the hospital for treatment. So we can learn, and what can we do to improve resilience of foreigners, which are more vulnerable to disasters? Firstly, it's necessary to provide education seminars and training. Second, it's necessary to secure various channels for them to receive the information. Thirdly, it's necessary to provide disaster support force to foreigners like Korean. Lastly, it's necessary to provide crisis consultation and psychological education. Okay, they involved my presentation. Thank you for your attention. Thank you.
My name is Yujin Song from the Department of Consumer Science at Chungbuk National University. Today, I'd like to talk about the result of our research on consumers' issue regarding sterilization and disinfectant products, which have increased in use due to the COVID-19 outbreak. The presentation will proceed in the following orders: introduction, theoretical background, research method, result, and conclusion. First, introduction. Consumers often use household chemical products in daily or professional lives. In Korea, consumers' awareness of the risk of the chemicals in daily consumer products was raised as the tragic humidifier disinfectant scandal started to come to the surface in 2011. It has since led to the coining of the term homochemicals. However, in recent times, sterilization and disinfectant products are again being widely used on a daily basis or in professional life due to COVID-19. As a result, there is increased concern that the entire nations may be exposed to reactive chemical hazards such as chlorine, ozone, and radicals. Sterilization and disinfectant products are designed to kill or inactivate bacteria and viruses. So such products inevitably contain the toxic. There is no sterilization and disinfectant product that is harmless to human body and the environment. However, there have been more cases of misuse as the use of such products has increased in recent years. Accordingly, the Ministry of Environment has provided and distributed precautions for use regarding sterilization and disinfectant products. So, in this study, we explored points of interest for consumers regarding sterilization and disinfectant products, which are widely used in daily life due to COVID-19. In particular, we try to determine how consumer issues are changing regarding sterilization and disinfectant products by comparatively analyzing issues before and during the current COVID-19 situation. Next, I'd like to talk about theoretical background. First, we examined the risk of VOCs contained in sterilization and disinfectant products. Consumers are either directly exposed to VOCs when they use such products or indirectly exposed when they stay indoors, where the product remains airborne for a long period of time. VOCs are characterized by mild and gradual elevation and symptoms appearing in the human body. Depending on the amount of exposed, they are known to cause irritation of respiratory tracts, headache, and neurological and physiological dysfunctions. Next, I'd like to talk about the regulations and management of sterilization and disinfectant products in Korea and the United States. First, the Ministry of Environment in Korea. The Ministry of Environment in Korea stipulates measures concerning the risk assessment of household chemical products. Standards for biocide substances and biocide products and relief from damage caused by biocide products. The Act on Safety Management of Household Chemical Products and Biocide was enacted for the purpose of protecting the health of the people and the environment and to contribute to public safety. The Act designates and publicly announced consumer chemical products subject to safe check, which are household chemical products that are recognized as hazardous as a result of a risk assessment. Certain items of household chemicals products subject to safety check include sterilization and disinfectant products, which are further divided into sterilization and disinfectant products. Algicides, antibacterial disinfectant for humidifier, and products for infectious disease. In other words, these products are harmful substances which are regulated to undergo risk assessment and safety management in accordance with the Act. Next, I would now like to talk about the case of the USA. The U.S. Environment Protection Agency reviews the safety data of the antibacterial products before marketing and approved and distribution in accordance with the federal insecticides, fungicide, and rodenticide Act. Sterilization and disinfectant products are substances that must be thoroughly managed because they are hazardous to human health. Next, I will now talk about our research method. We examine the following research questions. First, the core issues of sterilization and disinfectant products for consumers before COVID-19 are explored. Second, the core issue of sterilization and disinfectant products for consumers during the COVID-19 situation are explored. Third, the core issues of sterilization and disinfectant products for consumers before COVID-19 are compared with the issue during the COVID-19 pandemic. Article posts on Neighbor Down Google's web documents, blog news, and cafes were analyzed and used for analysis. Text of articles that contain the words sterilization and disinfectant products were collected and analyzed. The analysis method used word text mining, word frequency analysis, and semantic cluster analysis. In addition, the program used for analysis were TextTom, UCINet, and RStudio, and so on. The research were following. First, frequent analysis of the word appearing of revealed and the followings before COVID-19 words related to general hygiene and infection, such as disinfectant, sterilization, animal prevention, germ, virus, and disease hygiene appears most frequently. In addition, words related to cases of infectious disease, such as MERS and African swine fever appeared. However, during the COVID-19 pandemic, many words related to preventing and donating of overcome COVID-19, such as donating and deliver, corona mask, prevention, overcome, and body, and so on. Yeah. Next, the Concord analysis was performed, which is a semantic cluster analysis method. Based on TF-IDF index, the top 18 words were selected and then analyzed. The picture you see is a visualization of the analysis result through NetDraw. As a result, analyze a cluster of keywords before COVID-19 pandemic. Words related to sterilization consumers goods, sterilizing consumers goods, and sterilization product commercial, and food hygiene, and disinfectant products mainly appeared. Yes. And additionally, cases of infectious diseases such as African swine fever and MERS could be derived as main themes. Next, during COVID-19 outbreak, cementing cluster could be derived regarding the effectiveness and safety in sterilization and disinfectant product. Infected of domestic quarantine and support for infection prevention products and promote of sterilization and disinfectant products and eco-friendly sterilization and disinfectant products for infants. Yes. Comparing the main themes of the two periods, there was a clear difference in that while the topic about sterilization and infectious disease case in daily life could be derived before COVID-19. The topic about the safety and effectiveness of sterilization and disinfectant products could be derived during the COVID-19 situation. The research results indicate that consumers interested in the safety of sterilization and disinfectant products has increased as they experience the COVID-19 situation. However, the sterilization and disinfectant process is inevitable in the COVID-19 pandemic. Therefore, the establishment of an objectively safe environment and the delivery of information to consumers about the proper use of such a product becoming more important than ever. Therefore, it is necessary to provide safety information such as precautions for product use continuously and actively in situations in which sterilization and cleaning agents are routinely used, such as in the case of COVID-19. That brings me to the end of my presentation. Thank you so much for your attention.